Oh no. What do I say? There's people watching. I haven't prepared anything. What's up, everybody? This is Ryan here, and you are watching episode 50 of my live stream Q&A featuring a new shirt. I bought the shirt at Winners. It's basically a store where you can go to buy like expensive crap for cheaper, because even though I have a salary, I'm still very cheap. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me for episode 50 of Ask a Programmer Live. I have a few things to say about that, but what's up, Trax and Butuhan and Pranshul? Yeah, the reason I'm wearing this partly is because I will likely be doing a podcast type thingy after this. But also, it's really friggin' hot all of a sudden where I live. So, yeah. But anyways, I digress. So yeah, today is episode 50. Now, it's worth mentioning that this is not actually the first iteration, I'll say, of my live stream Q&A sessions. I actually started doing them, I think, back in 2018 or something. And I did I think it was over 100 episodes, and then I kind of did a reboot of it. And here we are. Hey, what's up from Turkey? I don't know any Turkish, unfortunately, so I can't say hello to you in your native tongue, which is probably a good thing because I'd probably do a poor job. But yeah, random sidebar on Turkey. I don't know if you know who Engin Terzi is. Engin Terzi, my friend from Turkey. I thought marhaba was Arabic. Maybe it's Turkish as well? Marhaban. Anyways, but yeah, Engin Terzi is hosting this giant arm wrestling. Or no, it's not Engin Terzi. Never mind. He's doing a different event. My bad. But yeah, this is the only person I'm aware of from Turkey, apart from Erdogan, is a famous arm wrestler. Anyways, I'll shut up about that now. So today's episode is likely going to be a shorter one. So the deal was last Sunday I was going to be doing like a podcast type thingy with Breen's Robert on his channel. And he wasn't able to do that last Sunday, so we're likely going to do that after this show. I'm just waiting on confirmation from him. So this show might end up being a little shorter. It might be more like an hour or something like that. But that's okay. I'll try to get through as many questions as I can if we get any. Otherwise, I'll just keep rambling. But yeah, hey, what's up, Joe? But yeah, this is episode 50. So just interesting little bits of information about this live stream Q&A. So this is 50 episodes. On average, my episodes are about 2 hours long. So that's just in this iteration of the live stream, about 100 hours of basically answering questions live and not having a script at all. I will sometimes have a little bit of a script or just some like bullet points for the lessons that I do. I'm not doing a lesson today. But yeah, it's pretty much all live. And then when I consider all the live coding I've done and then the previous iteration of the live stream Q&A, I think it's probably in the 400 to 500 hours of just talking live. And it's been an interesting experience because it's something you have to kind of get used to. By the way, this is a programming Q&A. I'm happy to ramble about computer science. I'm pretty damn good with Android development, Kotlin programming language, Java, although I don't like to really use it too much these days. But pretty much ask me anything except web development, and I might have an answer for you. But yeah, it's, I don't know, probably most of you listening haven't done any live stuff, but it's an interesting dynamic because you have to kind of be okay with whatever pops into your brain instantly, and you have to just kind of say it. And that could, that can potentially get you into some hot water. Hey, what's up, Second Joe? But yeah, it's nice to be on 50 episodes in, and interestingly, there's actually been some minor YouTube views. I think episode 48 is already up to 1,300 views on YouTube, which for live stuff on my channel is unheard of. So that's kind of cool. Anyways, yeah. Any questions? I don't really have a... Hey, what's up, Karan? And Burak? I don't really have a lesson planned. Oh, we got a question. If you have a question... Eine Frage, or is it eine Frage? What's up, pajamas or pajamas? Have you tried KMM? What's your thoughts on it? So for those wondering, so KMM stands for Kotlin Multi-Platform Mobile. So to answer your question, Agam, I have done Kotlin multi-platform. I haven't successfully deployed sort of like to an iOS device using Kotlin multi-platform, which to me, Kotlin multi-platform mobile is specifically like Android and iOS, although Kotlin multi-platform, I can tell you what I have done with it. I have built an Android application using Compose, and then I also built a desktop JVM application using Compose and Kotlin multi-platform. And what was cool about that is I was able to share 98%, I believe, of the code between a desktop application and an Android application. That was cool. And it was with Compose. So yeah, I have a little bit of experience with Kotlin multi-platform. My thoughts on it, quite excited about it, but it had some major hangups, and I'm gonna rate that in the post tense there because I haven't really touched it in 6 months. So maybe they've fixed some of the fixed some of the issues. So yeah. What was my major hangups though? Gradle configuration was a nightmare. Now it's important to note here that I was using Kotlin multi-platform plus Compose, which is a UI framework. So this, in addition, added an extra layer of sort of complexity, which made it even more difficult. But yeah. Hey, what's up, Michael? And Battery. So yeah, this is pretty much my experience with it. I see there's some questions pouring in, so I'm not going to ramble on this one too long. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts about it. Really excited about it. I'm looking forward to eventually... the truth is I might not actually do iOS with Kotlin multi-platform. I might just do web, desktop, and Android. Because I'm not a big fan of iOS development. But I do have a Mac, so I might end up doing that. I think it's still a little bit early stages for it. But I think people have already started to build working applications as far as I'm aware. I know there's a couple companies that specialize in Kotlin multi-platform development. So what I would say about it is, the question was, have you tried it? Yes. What are my thoughts on it? Excited about it. Setting up Gradle for it. Hopefully they've managed to work out some of the issues, because last time I did it, it literally took me like 30 hours to get Gradle working. Not fun. That was like, I don't know, almost 4 days straight of just trying to get Gradle to build, but eventually I did get it working. Hopefully it'll be easier for you. Next question. Bature. Sorry, my friend, I have no idea how to pronounce your name. How do you make sure that the user session is good and the user is logged in throughout the app? There's different ways you could do this. So I'm assuming you're getting some kind of authentication token. So assuming you're getting an authentication token, you could store that in... Oh no, why is my internet not working? Oh, that would be a major issue. Sorry, just 1 second. Okay, I hope everyone can hear me. This is a really horrible day for my internet to stop working. But I'm just going to carry on, and if the stream like shuts down or gets super laggy, let me know. Anyways. Okay, seems to be working now. All right, anyways. So yeah, you could store that in some kind of short-term storage. So I don't know, you could use like data store or even shared preferences if you really want to. Something like that. So you store the auth token. It's a little bit difficult because like you've got to know what your sort of business rules are, like how long is a user's session allowed to last. So you're going to need to have some kind of like a timestamp. Whether that comes from, probably that would come from the back end. But it depends on how you've got it set up. I don't know. But yeah, and then what you would do is you would sort of retrieve that timestamp and check if it was created within the time the user is allowed. Bature says a user session lasts as long as they are not logged out. Okay. So yeah, you would just you would store that authentication token, and then pretty much what you would want to do is before you do anything important or when you navigate to a new feature, check that the timestamp is still valid with the API, or the backend, I should say. And why would you want to do that? I don't know how your backend is set up. Those are details that I'm not aware of. But what you don't want to have happen is have the user do something important, like updating something, and then your backend rejects it because their session isn't valid. So you'd probably want to... I'm not saying you should check the validity of the auth token, every time you're going to do something. But I would say at least you should check it when the user navigates to like a new distinct feature or screen of the application is probably a good idea. Maybe that's a bit extreme. There are some other ways you could do it. Like you could have like some kind of shared method of checking that, like a shared view model or something like that. But you have to be a little bit careful with that, because then you're getting into shared mutable state, and you have to be a bit careful. But yeah, I think that's pretty much... Buttress, how do you verify they're logged in every fragment and activity? You'd have to basically make a call to the backend, and yeah, make a call to the backend and just check it. That's, I guess, the only way to be sure. You might want to do that with some kind of shared view model, but there's different ways to do it. Okay, next question. Hopefully that answered your question. We have a question from Jean Gardy. Yeah, you're welcome, Battery. Jean Gardy, he asked to me, this is a great stream. Can you list some beginner project someone can make to improve their skills? Sorry, I'm not mocking you. I just like to do random accents, and I have no idea if that's actually what you sound like. Can you list some beginner projects someone can make to improve their skills? Sure. I have a more detailed video for Android specifically in the description box below. It's like how to become a job-ready Android developer. But I don't know if you're an Android developer, and I'll just list some general projects. This is sort of the progression I follow when I'm learning new GUI frameworks. I start with a hello world. I used to think the hello world was stupid, but I get it now. The purpose of a hello world is just to build a compiling or executing application. That's the whole point of the hello world. You want to, the first problem in learning a new platform or language or frameworks or whatever, just deploy something or just get something to compile and execute. Step number 1, hello world. Probably you're past that, but that's an important step. Step number 2, I'm assuming you're talking GUI project, something with a graphical user interface. This would change a little bit if it wasn't GUI. But yeah, next thing I would build is a calculator. Why? I'll list some notes here, I might as well. The purpose of Hello World is to learn how to compile and execute a program in your respective language. Looks like John is doing Android, that's good. The next thing is a calculator, so learn how to basically take user input and manipulate it, then update the screen. And the other reason for a calculator is fairly simple problem domain. Now, building a calculator can be actually quite complicated depending on what you are trying to do. So if you want to keep it simple, just do like a binomial expression calculator, because you do have to actually like sort of use regex or something to, or just, you know, use standard library to break down the expressions in the calculator, like 1 + 1. But yeah, the next thing I recommend is a calculator. Step number 3 would be something like a note-taking app or a REST API app. In any case, so this is going to teach you working with local persistence, and then this is going to teach you working with network persistence. Probably, so Jean says he's already a web developer. So yeah, you might be familiar with REST then. But yeah, something like this. What we're doing now is we're like a calculator. You're not necessarily storing the calculations long term. With a note-taking app, you're obviously storing the notes on the device, probably using a database. And then with a REST API, you're not necessarily using a local database or local storage, but you're doing that with most likely a remote data source. So yeah. So yeah, that's basically, those are the things that I recommend. And by the time you get here, you probably want to, come on brain, you can do this. Sort of like consider publishing this thing on Google Play or sharing it on GitHub or something like that. Okay, so I just got word that I am on for chatting with Breens, so that means I'll probably only stick around for like another 40 minutes. So I'm going to try to go through these questions sort of lightning fast. Joe asks, your take on unit testing an app? I don't, so there's some confusion over what these words mean, but I don't test the UI with unit tests. This would require a framework like Espresso and Roboelectric. I don't do any of that. I just don't really find that useful. Some people do. It takes too much time, too much frameworks, and this is the kind of thing I like to test by actually deploying to the device. But I love unit tests in general that are not tightly coupled to platform or framework code. And what I will actually do is I will quite aggressively pull logic into classes which are easy to test. And I will test those using unit tests. So the key idea here is things which are tightly coupled to frameworks or platform code, anything that's difficult to test, I try to make those objects as simple as possible, and then I pull the logic out into some other class which is easy to test, and you'll find that the more something is tightly coupled to third-party libraries and platform code, the more difficult it will be to test because you need to satisfy those dependencies. The fewer dependencies on such things that a class has, the easier it is to test. So that's why I do that. You might want to look into, I'll mention two things here. One is the humble object pattern. I make extensive usage of that. And then there's also passive view by Martin Fowler. He's got a great blog that's free on that. And this is specifically for views, but I am a really big fan of the passive view pattern because it's basically trying to pull as much of the presentation logic as possible out of a view and then having the view basically told what to do. I have a variation on it where the view does still observe fields. It's not necessarily, I'm not necessarily advocating for a model view presenter. I don't really do that anymore, but I will often have a presenter and a view model. The presenter will handle presentation logic and it's easy to test. The view model will do what a view model really should do, in my opinion, which is that it will model the data necessary to render the view, and the view will still observe it. Okay. To answer the question or summarize it, my take on unit testing, I don't like, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I don't like to test things which are difficult to test. I love testing. Here's a quick example. I've got this project here which is full of just standard library data structures and algorithms questions, and these ones I definitely test. Another example, I was building my own programming language in Kotlin, and because I was building a programming language and not using any third-party libraries to do that, I went for 100% code coverage. Every line of code is unit tested. Why? Because there was no third-party dependencies that made testing difficult. Okay. Learn coding. Ask how to make secure API key, URL, and other keys. It's hard for me to answer this question because I don't know what you're doing and what level of security you need. You could use something like store your keys in build configuration or local properties. I could be wrong about local properties. I haven't done this in a while and I don't necessarily remember exact details like that, but store your keys in build configuration or something, and then hide those files from revision control, i.e. don't git add. As far as like beyond that, I'm going to point you to a talk. So look up, what is my friend's name? Spaghetti Coder. Oh, why can't I remember his name? Just give me one sec. I remember his Twitter handle. Ed Holloway George. He got married recently. So look up Ed Holloway George. Don't get stung by OWASP. Android Worldwide is the YouTube channel. You can find it. Watch his talks, and he goes into a lot more detail about security and is far more of an expert in that field than I am. But yeah, if you want to like hide API keys from revision control, you could store them in build configuration. That's one thing you can do. Okay. Our case asks, hello, can you answer my question? Yeah, go ahead and ask your question if you're still around. I don't have a question from you earlier. If you're wondering if I skipped your question, I don't have one in my chat here. So go ahead and ask again if you're still around. Christopher, when making a date pick with Jetpack Compose, what mutable state should I make it in the view model? Date pick. Just give my brain a moment to parse this question. A date picker, and you want to store the state of that date picker. Christopher, like, I'd like to help you this question, but I don't know what you're trying to do with that data. So I'm assuming you're using a date. You're using a date picker, so I'm assuming you want something like a date timestamp. What mutable state should I make it in the view model? Let's look at the API real quick. Okay, so it looks like the API is going to give you a year, a month of year, and a day of month. I'm assuming there's probably a more exact API somewhere as well. I guess it's just a date picker. So yeah, you could store these fields individually. You could create your own, you could create like a date model that has the 3 fields. So that could be like, I don't know, whatever. This is just pseudocode. Year, month, day of month. You could do that. You could, another thing you could do is you could use, what is the good Java time library? I think it's Java time. So there is, Java has a calendar class, but it's old and annoying. I think the new one is Java 8 date and time API. If you want to do that route, that's probably what I would suggest. Let's see. So yeah, what else do we have? I lost my spot now. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say because I don't really know what you need it for, like what your use case is, and there's a lot of different answers for this question. Okay. What is Ashish asks, what is the difference between val and var? And I did see there were some answers. It's important to understand. There's an important distinction here that is really important to understand. Val, so Kwabena mentioned immutable. That's kind of correct. So val means the reference itself is immutable, which is another way of saying reference can't be assigned. So for primitive values, or for primitive types, val basically means immutable. Although I think there are some really sneaky ways you can violate that principle. For reference types, to be honest, I don't remember exactly if that's what they're called in Kotlin. I think that's what they are, but certainly in Java. For reference types, it's important to understand that the data which the reference points to is certainly not immutable in all cases. There's actually many cases where you can manipulate the actual value. When I say value, I don't mean val. The actual memory location which holds the numeric value or whatever. And then var means totally mutable. I don't have an example on hand that I could show you. I might spend just a moment looking for it. What would be a great example? One second. Yeah, I'm tempted to just leave it there, but it's important to understand val doesn't mean the data itself is immutable, and that's something that which people get confused on. It means you can't reassign the reference, and there are various ways, I'll add that in there, there are ways to mutate the state even for values. I believe unless how does this work? It's something like unless every reference to that location in memory is a val. So what I'm trying to say is, like, let's say you have val class some class. You need to make sure that every property within that class is also a val, whatever, don't care. Yeah, that's basically it. Anyways, this is more a question that I would like to have some time to prepare an example for. But what is the important thing to understand here, though? There's a sort of a question behind this which I'd like to get to. What is the difference between val or var? The more immutable you make your code, the more resistant it is to basically issues with shared mutable state. Race conditions, all kinds of stuff like that. Hey, thank you, Christopher, for the super chat. I really appreciate that, and hopefully my answer was useful. So, yeah. Like, I wish I had an example handy, but basically, in essence, using val will, in most cases, make your code more difficult to change. And let me show you why that's important. I have some images I can show you real quick. If I can find them. So this is sort of like an example of code which was written very mutable. So this is some kind of state. So this, you can think of this as like a var. And we've got all these different functions or classes which are changing that thing. Like if you imagine this is a counter, maybe this one sets it to a 2, and then this function or class sets it to a 3. This one sets it back to 0. And this is all occurring over time. If this occurs in an uncontrolled way, then you will get really difficult and annoying errors in your code base. Conversely, the more features we use, such as values, And the more we kind of make our code more functional style, essentially, where instead of the state being altered possibly at the same time or at very close intervals in an uncontrolled way, rather we are passing the state through. One way we can do that is to pass the state through functions and not make changes to it outside of the bodies of these functions. And then there's other things we could do, like using val as much as possible, only using var when something really needs to be a variable. It just makes your code safer. Anyways, I would like to ramble more on this, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to carry on. But yeah, there's this general principle that, here's a way to think of it. Think of like a hard drive versus a solid state drive. So the hard drive has more moving mechanical parts. And I could be wrong about this, but I believe that would make hard drives, the moving ones with the metal discs, probably more likely to break, and in cases less efficient. That might be a terrible analogy. I'm not a hardware guy, and I have no idea if what I just said was true. But the point I'm trying to get at is, in a machine, the fewer moving parts, generally speaking, the less likely it is for unexpected things to happen, for one part to get in the way of another. And this is sort of the same with software as well. But at the same time, that's not to say that you can't write good quality code which has global variables. People have done it in the past. Okay. What else do we have? What's up, Obadullah? Thank you for joining us. But yeah, a good way to look at val, a val reference should, or let me rephrase it. I like to think of val references as read-only, not immutable. You can, I think it's appropriate to say the reference is immutable, like you can't reassign it, but the data which the reference points to is not necessarily immutable. But that's really getting into the weeds. Just a sidebar here. I once interviewed with Jetbrains, and if you ever interview with Jetbrains, you will want to have a very clear answer to what val and var means, because they will ask you. This was almost a year ago, or yeah, a year ago. So anyways, okay. Can you do some app UI designs here in this live? No. But I do have some live coding episodes on my channel. This question was from our case. I do have some live coding examples. I don't remember what the name of the videos were off the top of my head, of me doing live designs. And I would suggest probably go with Figma. In old videos, I might be using InVision. I use Figma now, both at work and for my own personal projects. I use Figma. InVision is fine, but Figma just does pretty much everything InVision does, but better and for free. Question from Eli. In your opinion, what's the future of Android? Because nowadays we've seen devices like TVs, watches, glasses, also where ARM is possibly the future for chips. It's just really hard to say. The one thing I feel quite strongly about is that phones are really not great in terms of how can I say this? I would far rather work with a mouse and keyboard than use my thumbs on a small screen. So the user interface, not in the sense of the visual stuff, but literally how the user interfaces with the device, I think phones kind of suck. So I think there will be a push to make these things better at that, whether that comes from like direct neural interface, more obviously there's like voice commands, stuff like that. And they're getting more commands like this phone here. I just look at it and it unlocks because it has facial recognition. But what I'm really trying to say is I do think smartphones, the way they look now, aren't going to last forever. And I do think there is a future for like, keeping Android on watches, glasses, and those sorts of things. I'm not a hardware guy, so I can't really talk about chipsets and stuff like that. But yeah, the short answer to this question is I don't know. I have strong opinions. I think the biggest factor will be if global high-speed internet becomes free and cheaply available. But beyond that, it's pretty fuzzy for me. Track says he's got to leave, probably already left, but thank you for stopping by, my friend. Oh, this is an interesting question. Hey, what's up, Breens? Learn coding. Sorry, let me just shut my phone off. Getting Slack messages from work on Sunday. Okay, a roadmap for studying Android concurrency to master it. This is a little bit of a tricky one, so pick a tool for it. So you could do, if you're doing Java, I suggest the Java executors framework. And I actually have an article on Medium. Let me see if I can find it. So I have an article I wrote, Android Programming Simple Concurrency Without Async Task or RxJava. And what it's going to do is hopefully introduce the idea of concurrency to you. I posted the link in the comment section. Yeah, it should sort of introduce the idea of concurrency for you. And then it introduces how to use the executors framework in a very simple way. You really just have to set up one single class, and then it gives you an example of how to use it and how you sort of jump onto a background thread to do some kind of background computation. And then you jump back onto the main thread to post, so to speak, the result of that computation. I'm not going to give you the long form explanation, but I suggest you read that article. Other tools you could use, coroutines. So coroutines can be made fully concurrent using, I should be careful how I say that, but using dispatchers. So for example, dispatchers.io. And then another thing you could do is you could use RxJava. If you're working in Java and you want to keep it simple, I suggest you use the Java executors framework. If you're in Kotlin, probably use coroutines. I think that's in the long run going to help you more. However, you could still use the executors framework in Android with Kotlin because Kotlin has access to the Java standard library in Android. And then you could also use RxJava. I probably don't use this unless you are planning on working for a company which uses RxJava. I don't have anything inherently negative about RxJava. I personally don't like the giant chained method calls. I just find it ugly. And the learning curve can be horrendous on RxJava. But with that being said, if you know how to use it, it's a terrific library. It's just the learning curve is really tricky. And you could use that for Java or Kotlin. So the question was a roadmap for studying Android. Really, the steps are learn the basics. Learn the basics of what concurrency means. I personally find the debugger is the best way to directly see how this kind of works if you can set it up properly. I gave an analogy a while back. I don't have enough time to give you the analogy, but maybe what was your name? Learn coding. Come back maybe. Oh, I'm not going to be here next Sunday because I probably have to go to Edmonton, a different city. But come back on another live stream and maybe ask me this question again, and I can give you a way to think about concurrency, which might help you by analogy. But I just don't have enough time today, unfortunately. But yeah, consider checking out that article, and hopefully that'll kind of help you with that. I need coffee. Okay. So Dan asks, have you been in a company that doesn't follow industry standards coding, like they don't use any architecture like MVVM or something, and fully procedural? The short answer is I was for all of like a week and a half, and then I ended up turning down that job. So the short answer is yes. Is there anything else you would like to know? But yeah, quite early in my career in 2016, I was in a company where it was like that. What's up, Jay? And thank you, Quabena, for sort of clarifying the immutability thing. JS, what's the best way to manage token refresh in an app? The response after sign-in contains refresh token. Let's see. What's the best way to manage token refresh in an app? The response after sign-in contains a refresh token, access token, and access token expiry time. So, so the API looks something like refresh token, access token, and then access token expiry. Interceptor class or use token expiry time to check. Interceptor. Is that like a retrofit interceptor or OKHTTP? That must be a I don't know. I don't think there's an answer here where it's just what is the best way to do it. I think there's just different ways to do it. Off the top of my head, I would probably... So I would store the token, the access token, and the expiry, and probably the refresh token. I'm not really... I'm trying to remember how the refresh token works. Is that like something that you can send back to the back end to get a new token? I just don't remember. I don't think I've ever worked with a refresh token. But I would probably do this in a specific class, or just have a function to check it, and then, yeah. I don't know. I can't really give you a great answer here because I don't know what architecture you're using. I don't know what how the refresh token works. I don't really know, to be honest, Jay. It's pretty difficult to give answers to these hyper-specific technical questions without knowing in the broader sense what you're trying to do. Hake says, I think there's no point in RxJava as we have coroutines and flows. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I know there are people who would disagree with you. When you really get into the weeds, there are some reasons why you might want to prefer RxJava, but I personally don't. But if you're in like a team which has been using RxJava for a long time and they don't feel like changing, there are also some situations where coroutines aren't necessarily going to perform better. But that's like really getting into the weeds, and yeah. Thanks, Quebena, for clarifying that. Okay, any other questions? And sorry, I can't give you a great answer there, Jay. Dan says, my current job is like that, and the company tech is so old. Was starting to innovate it. We even upload files using FTP, not continuous integration and deployment. Yeah, that sounds fun. So I don't have any other questions at the moment. I think I'll wait just like a few minutes and then call it a day. But yeah, any other questions? I really hope my internet issue was just like a one-off thing. One thing that really irritates me is I feel like Canada has some of the crappiest internet on the planet for a developed country. It just drives me crazy. All right, there doesn't seem to be any more questions, so... hey, Cass, can you tell me a little bit about CI and CD? I can tell you that they stand for continuous integration and continuous deployment, but I have never like administrated CI or CD in a project, so I can't actually help you with that at all. So yeah. Anyways, I think that'll be enough for today. So I'm in a few minutes or whenever Brains is ready. I'm not sure if he's still listening, but no huge rush there. I'll probably take a short break myself. But yeah, and then I'll be jumping on, and yeah, I'll be having a chat with him, or he'll be having a chat with me, I guess is a better way to put it. And if you want to see the result of that chat, follow his channel and on Twitter, and if it shows up, that's where it will be. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. This has been episode 50, and hopefully there will be many more episodes of me rambling to a webcam and then looking at myself on my second screen to make sure that I'm not in full screen mode when I'm typing things, or full webcam mode. So that's basically it. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a good Sunday. All right, I won't be doing a live stream next Sunday because my girlfriend got invited to a graduation party. Both of us have been graduated for a while, her and I, but I will be going along for that. There's actually, she said we might be doing a day trip. I think that might be a bit tight because it's a 3-hour drive to Edmonton and then a 3-hour drive back. And I'm not sure we're going to want to do that in one day, but most likely I won't be live streaming next Sunday, but there's a small chance. I'll keep you updated. If you want to know if I'm going to be live streaming, follow me on Twitter. Link in the description box below. That's it. Have a good Sunday, cousins.